Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Stephen Cheevers Mind Trip. Appreciate you tuning in as always. Today, I've got a really cool dude, Rossco Paddison, on with me, and he's been in a cave working on some crazy AI stuff and a lot of other things as well. And I'm really keen to dive into his brain today. So, Rossco, man, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
It's so good to come out of my cave and be here with you.
Man, that's awesome. What would be awesome for just the guys tuning in is, just for anybody that, doesn't know you, is not in like the worlds that we've operated in, and certainly like, that you operate in, give us a bit of a background, like who is Rossco Paddison? What does he do? Who does he help? All that good stuff.
For sure. I mean, firstly, always an innovative entrepreneur. Had my first business at 13, had 3 brick and mortar businesses by the time I was 17. I had to get my parents to go guarantor on leases and stuff. So I've bought and sold and exited businesses. I spent a considerable amount of time in marketing, sales, and entrepreneurial sort of functions in businesses. So I've actually been hand to hand in. I lost count at about 760 mil worth of sales that I actually was at the table negotiating for, whether it was property or deals or startup capital raising or all those kind of things. So I've been on the tools of some of your audience, which is cool. And I have always swum alongside technology. So one of my very first businesses was selling computers and fixing them and doing network engineering. And then as you know, in more recent years, when we met in Hawaii a couple of years back, had a crypto coaching business at the time. And that was something that I was super passionate about. I think crypto is definitely the future. I think there's a massive future in it. But I kind of got tired of it because I didn't want to be tech support anymore. So I got tired of saying, have you tried turning it on and off again at different points in my career? And I saw what's really... I right now where I'm at is I've seen the opportunity inside of where AI is heading. And what I find really exciting about it is that we get to do things. We've lived in a world for the last 20, 30 years that's very disruptive. And now we get to hyper contextualize things for our customers and design an experience that's world-class, whether we're selling or marketing or whatever it is we're doing in our business. So I'm stoked to be on the tools. That was a bit of a tangential rant, but that's
I love that.
The world I swim in.
No, man, I love an off tangent rant. I think the last time somebody had me on as a guest for a podcast, the intro I gave was like 17 minutes long, and they're like, "Well, we just ended there." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" so it's all good, man. So yeah, look, obviously when we met in Hawaii a couple of years back, you were in the crypto space doing the crypto coaching, and I know, like, even before I met you, you'd obviously, been in crypto for years. You worked on a tech startup called Masendo, and then you had SyncDAO. So I'd love to hear a wee bit more about, you've obviously, like you said, been an entrepreneur since you were like a kid, basically. At what point did you enter crypto? Why was that, the thing that you sort of pursued? And, I'd love to hear a wee bit more about the the tech startup side of it. Obviously, Masendo was a tech startup. It'd be cool to understand how that all went, and maybe what you learned from that. And and then ultimately, what was the key point of pivoting sort of out of crypto?
So May 2016 is the answer to the question of when I got into crypto, and I was trying to transition out of a business at the time. I kind of have like a, 6 to 7 year cycle myself. Yeah. That if you put me on a chart, I correct every 7 years from one career to another. But the thing that was fascinating to me about crypto is I was transitioning out of a business. I had a little bit of capital at the time, and I was like, I want to figure out how to get a little bit more leverage. I'd mastered skills of entrepreneurship, and I wanted to master the skills of investing so that I could get more leverage on my dollars when I wasn't just bringing them in as cash flow into a business. And I kept seeing this annoying guy on Facebook that was a mutual friend of a guy, and I didn't know him, but he just kept saying, I just made money with Bitcoin. And I'm like, who is this asshole? Like, is this real? What is this bullshit? I was like, who is this dude? Anyway, I ring the one mutual friend that I really trust that I had in common with him on Facebook, and I rang him. I'm like, "Is this dude real? Like, is he full of shit or like, is he real?" And he's like, "No, he's real. I think it's a real thing. I've been sort of thinking about doing it too." And I'm like, "Let's get in a room with him. Let's go sit down and chat." And basically, what happened is, you know how you go through those moments where you get sort of like, green pilled or Bitcoin pilled or whatever. I went through that moment, and I had that crazy first 2 to 3 weeks in crypto where I literally, my now ex-wife was bringing me cups of coffee in the morning because I'd been up for like 18 hours straight, like reading, researching. It was another cave time. It was actually very similar to what I've just been through again, where I was just going like crazy mad scientist. You know those memes where you see the guy with the red string and the cigarette hanging out of his mouth and stuff? I was like, oh yeah, this all makes sense. Look over here. That was me. I was fully cooked on it. But no, I saw the, like, as someone who'd played in technology for a long time, I saw that it was real. And the thing that I saw that was really novel in crypto that I thought was killer was that in an infinite digital world like computers, where you could copy and paste things infinitely, they'd figured out how to make it so that you couldn't copy and paste things. That's literally what Bitcoin is. It's like non-copy and pasteable digital things, So it meant that all of a sudden we had finite things inside of an infinite game. And I was like, ooh, this equals some sort of cool extrapolation. So I went about, just to come back to your, questions about the startups and lessons there. Oh man, startup founder life, tech startup founder life is brutal. If you've had businesses, and you're looking down the eyes of a tech business, you're not playing on firm ground. Like if you're selling bananas and you're a banana seller, you've got firm ground, you got your stand, you sell your bananas, clear, right? Okay.
Yeah,
If you're working in tech, literally the infrastructure you're building on top of can change very rapidly. So we set about to build Mercendo, which was a peer-to-peer payments. It was like a global Venmo type payment system that we're building. We had some really cool tech, some epic tech. Like we had this thing where we could send someone a link and it had money in it, and literally the link had money in it. The first person who clicked on it got the cash that was inside the link, and it still doesn't that should actually be common practice in crypto because it had the ability to onboard users quicker than anything else out there. Anyway, we built on top of this infrastructure. Then the infrastructure changed. So we spent another $500,000 to build on top of the next infrastructure. Then the infrastructure changed. Then we spent another $400,000 to build on top of infrastructure. Then the infrastructure changed. So the journey was just like, holy crap. And we were just ahead of our time. To be honest, we're about 4 years too early. If we did the same mission 4 years later, the tech had settled, the infrastructure had stabilized, and we were building on layer 2s before layer 2s had really figured out their thing. And for the non-technical people in the audience, it was just like faster, cheaper blockchains we were building on top of, but it hadn't really landed which one was going to win. And so we were building on losers, to be honest, which made us lose. Yep, we ended up losing for that. And SyncDAO was another crack at trying to figure out something that we'd found as a problem inside of building Mercendo, which was getting users fast and cheap in a way where the business model was scalable. So we came up with this plan to get people to basically to create an army of people to onboard people into crypto using an affiliate layer on top of DeFi. These are all just basically terms that means we're going to pay people to get people into crypto. Yeah. Anyway, we built the thing, we launched the product, we spent an enormous amount of money on building this product, this custom architecture. It worked. It was all fine. And then the ground didn't move this time. Instead, well, it kind of did. The stablecoin we were using was built on top of a blockchain that the stablecoin got hacked. So literally there's this thing called the multi-chain hack. All the value got sucked out of the US dollar. So literally we're standing there with our hands in the air going, it's fucking happened again. The ground has moved underneath us. So I've been licking my wounds from that for a couple of years. And I tell you what, it is one of the most difficult things I've ever gone through, and learned so much on it. But one key takeaway that I got, that if anyone is going after a tech startup, the one thing I'd be asking about is I'd be asking myself, how do you build in a defensible way so that the ground can't move underneath you? Because that happened to me like a few times. And I'd definitely be putting that into your game plan. It wasn't in any of the startup education that I was taking. Everything, I was following everything to a T beyond that. So, yeah. And I tell you what, I've been, I shared with you, you know, I spent a couple of years licking my wounds on this, mostly because of shame and guilt, dude. Like, you know, we took some big risks. People backed us, you know, lots of people put down, you know, hard-earned cash into protocols and stuff to make them work and to make them fly behind startup founders. And, you know, we went on the brutal gauntlet and we failed, you know, and that sucks, you know. That's like you know how you get the arrows in the back as an entrepreneur? That was a harpoon. Yeah. I got harpooned.
Straight through the back, out through the chest, like, oh.
Yeah. It was like, it felt like one of those scenes in Marvel where you don't come back from it. But here I am, a couple of movies later, and I'm back.
Yeah, it's just a snap. Now, you know, it's all been reversed, so you're back again.
I mean, you know, I'm so grateful that, you know, people believe in you, and every time you have a crack at something like this, you know, you are running down a path that people are scared of, and risk is inherent in entrepreneurship. And reducing risk is inherent in investing. So now I've learnt this sweet spot of the two skills. So I'm pretty happy for whatever the next venture is, and I will crack it in this lifetime. But you know, the crack will be big when it happens.
No doubt, no fucking doubt about that. It's you know, whenever you say May 2016, not just like, I remember being in Dubai May 2016. I think I was 23. And I was doing financial advising, selling like pensions to expats out there. And I remember I cold call this guy and to try to pitch him over the phone. He's like, I don't need any of that. He goes, I'm a millionaire on crypto. And I was like, what? And he goes, no. Like, he goes, like, I'm driving a Bugatti. I'm like, he goes, I don't need a fucking pension, man. And he just hangs up the phone on me. And then I remember like turning to my boss. I only like vaguely heard about crypto at this time. It was like, you know, one of those like, you know, your really nerdy friends were doing it and talking about it and stuff, but like no like sane person was doing this. And like I remember turning to my boss and being like, have you heard about this crypto stuff? Like, is this worth like backing? And he goes, oh, like Bitcoin? He goes, yeah, I've been thinking about it. And everybody I spoke to was like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. But nobody was doing it. And I think it was like 500 a coin or something back then. I distinctly remember looking at it being like 450 to 500 range and being like, because I remember I had like not that I was ever going to do this because nobody would have been ballsy enough to do this, but I remember having like, I had saved like 15 grand to like put down a mortgage for a house and stuff. And I was like, fuck, if I even bought like maybe 2 or 3 of those and like they, you know, doubled in value or something, like that could be like a good investment. And then I just could not work out because there was no exchanges really. There wasn't like, you just download Coinbase and like buy it with your debit card. It was like, I remember reading it and being like, I was pretty good at computers, but like, I wasn't like that good at computer. I was like, fuck, I might have to sit on this for like 3 days and work this out. And like, I'm probably going to lose the money because someone's going to steal it, or I'm going to get scammed, or I'm going to put it in the wrong wallet, or I'm going to do some shit with it. And I just went, nah. And then, you know, you look back at it now and you're like, fuck. Even if but this is the thing with crypto is that you like everybody remembers the first time they heard about it and didn't buy it. And I think no matter what, you would have sold it by now anyway. Like nobody would have bought it at 450 and been like, I know it's going to 60 grand, so I'm gonna like hold it for like, you know, 10 years. It's like there's nobody you'd have immediately doubled it, went, oh fuck, sell that quick, you know. So that's how I sleep at night with that one, because I'm like, I would have sold it years ago anyway. I wouldn't have made that much money on it. And then secretly I'm like, oh fuck. So.
I think this is the thing, like FOMOing money you didn't make is such an interesting thing, such an interesting trait as humans, because we're like, oh, if only I kept blah. Yeah, you know, profit's relative. It happened to me. As long as you if you made money, that's a trophy. You made money, trophy. You won. Yeah. Winner.
Yeah. That fucking happened to me again over COVID with Moderna. I got a tip from a friend. He was like, buy Moderna, buy all these, like everybody that was like, you know, making the jab. And I went on, and again, didn't really understand how like the fucking stock market worked. It was just downloaded Trading 212. Like he told me this on a Saturday night when he was pissed, and we were both pissed. And I just fucking bought it there and then. But what happened? You obviously put like a buy order in when the stock market's closed. That's not what you're buying it for. You're buying it for like so what happened was it went like boom, like that. And it like bought at like 2 or 3 times the price that I put in the buy order for. And then I was like, oh shit. And then it went and like fucking plummeted because everybody just pulled their money back out. So I sat for it. I was like, oh, fuck's sake, I've got completely fucked over on this trade. The second, like I waited months, maybe 3, 4, 5 months. Eventually it got back to where it was, sold out of it. And then I checked it 6 months later, and it was like, this was at like $38. It went to like $350 a share. and I had like, I don't know how many shares. I had like dozens of shares, and I was just like, I made zero on that trade, and I could have made like fucking tens of thousands. And I was just like, oh, you fuck. I just went, I need to stop doing this. I'm just going to put my money in the S&P 500. I'm not smart enough for this game.
Well, I think also there's some important data that you shared here, which is you were drunk. Like,
I
don't think investment decisions happened.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, that's fair. That's fair. Also, the guy I was taking advice
Go
from
to the
was
cash,
day
throw a
trading.
couple of grand when you're drunk. Do that. Go to the casino. Just have fun.
Yeah, just have fun. That's probably what I should do. The guy that I took the tip from was day trading, so I like trusted him. I was like, but what I didn't realize was within 6 months he had no money left, so he obviously wasn't a great day trader. Right. But yeah. So anyway, no, I don't take tips from anyone. I'm just like S&P 500. That's where my money's going. Let the fucking stock market do its thing. So yeah,
it's funny, dude. I literally have this. I have like kind of like an inverse rule, and the inverse rule is if I get a tip from someone, if I'm holding some of that, I usually sell a little bit. I'm like, oh, yeah. Someone's telling me to buy it. It's a good. It's like an inverse indicator for me.
Yeah. Something bad's gonna happen here. Yeah, 100%. So post-crypto world, we've kind of left those type of things. I wondered, did you leave crypto just because you were sick of having to post on Facebook every week being like, I will not offer to buy you crypto because people kept impersonating you? I was like, was that the breaking point for him? Did he reach 50 of those posts and he went, fuck this, I'm out.
Nah, dude. I mean, I was teaching a system, and if anything is obvious to everyone by this point in the pod, like I like new adventures. Like a part of entrepreneurship is adventure and risk taking and having fun to me. And teaching a proven, repeatable system, I'm just not a PT. Like you're like a lot of your audience. I'm not good at the like this is the same. Like I'm very much the variety guy. So that's a big part of it for me. And I know it's important. And I mean, Paul is, as you know, firmly in the driver's seat of Wealth Farm now, doing great things. And it takes someone like Paul who's like, he's a pilot and a race car driver. He knows how to do the checklists and do all the things. Like he's the right guy to go to for that kind of stuff. Whereas me, I'm like, okay, let's dream up the next thing. And just a quick comment on the bridge from crypto to AI. I think there's something really important about the connection between these two things, which is AI isn't going to be able to go and open a bank account. It's not going to be able to go and sign up at, any of the major banks and say, here I am, I'm an AI, I'd like to open a bank account, please, because it doesn't have any ID, it doesn't have an address, it doesn't have whatever. So AI is going to be crypto native, meaning like it will be first and foremost doing most of its transactions on the blockchain. So it's huge. That wave is coming. It's not here yet, right? I think that wave is 3 to 5 years away. And I think the next wave in crypto will be bigger, and we might have a big correction before then too. And I think that would be healthy. Like, to me, markets are like seasons. You need, you need your occasional hurricane or bushfire or whatever to wipe everything down, and like
can't go up forever.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that's an important bridge into the AI is that AI will have to use this stuff, and you think about how many humans there are on Earth. There's like 7 billion, 8 billion, whatever it is. The number of AIs is going to be hundreds of times that. So you think about like 10, 20 years from now, we're going to have 700 to 800 billion AIs doing ordinary tasks, and their bank accounts are going to be crypto. I think crypto is going to do okay in the long term. Like, I think it's going to do okay. And I think the way to make money through it, for me, like vehically, like looking at it, I'm like, oh, there's some cool stuff coming down the pipe, and having swum in that world and now swimming in this world, I'm like, oh, I see some interesting opportunities. So yeah, very keen on that. But also very pragmatically, like front lines in a business, AI is just crushing right now. Like, we've been doing people are just, every day, every week you hear about AI, or someone's doing, I'm doing this in AI, or
this new feature's in AI, or you can do AI for this, you can do it for that, bang, bang, bang. It's like, to be honest, it's almost been like, I know ChatGPT is not AI, it's, I had a big conversation with, Ronsley in Fiji, and I said ChatGPT, and I just got like my face blown off for about 5 minutes about why that's not AI. So, and then I came away like very educated on it. But I've always tried to adopt it like, via ChatGPT and those easier ones to use for like, how does that make, my day-to-day life a bit easier in business? How do I do it for this? How do I do it for that? But there's just such a much deeper level of AI that obviously like guys like Ronsley, like yourself, are like, working on, involved in. And that's the stuff that like is super interesting, because it's like Joe Blogs doesn't, like, including myself, doesn't really understand it or know what's coming or how can I really utilize this. Because I know there's people out there doing sexy stuff with AI that are like, replacing like entire divisions of their business, replacing people in their business. So yeah, I mean, I'd be keen to hear, more from you on all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I think the big opportunity in AI is the big opportunity that's like not being spoken about enough by anyone right now is for business owners, sales guys, PTs, whoever is like on the tools on the daily. The big opportunity is hyper contextualization. What the heck does that mean? Hyper contextualization. Well, you have a brochure, a letter, a sales letter, a program brochure, a this, a that. You have all these things, these pieces of IP that you've had in your business for a squillion years, right? It's like, it's this letter, it's this thing, it's this food program, it's all that sort of stuff. And to be honest, humans are fed up with shoddy, shitty hospitality service experiences. They expect better. And what you can do right now is you can hyper contextualize your existing assets to make them incredible for your users. Let me give you an example of something I did. I won't tell you the business name because I don't really do that when I do case studies, but there's this really cool thing we did the other day. There was this business and they have a list of 30,000 respondees to a survey, right? And so basically the people who come onto this website, they come and they benchmark their business against the rest of their industry. And I won't share which industry that is. Anyway, what they do is they answer all these questions so that they can see where their business is performing against other businesses in their industry. And they answer 115 questions because they're just like happy to just like quickly answer these things. And it's a really cool survey that people go through. Anyway, this company sat down to me and I'm like, well, actually, they didn't sit down with me. I sent them an email. I'm like, hey, I just had a huge idea for you guys. You guys need to think about this. And the huge idea was this. It was like, they've got all those data points on 30,000 people. There's nothing stopping them from taking their existing sales letter that talks to everyone and anyone on that list and making it a one-to-one sales letter for every single person on that list. So instead of sending 30,000 people the same letter, they sent 30,000 letters to 30,000 people. And the sales letter went a little bit like this. It went like, oh, you've been struggling with this type of lead generation and you've been, you've only been making this many sales a week and you've been working this many hours. We know it must be tough. And it's talking directly one-to-one to the person. Yeah. So the reason I give you that example is that's hyper contextualization of how your service helps that one individual like really narrowly. And that's a mind-blowing opportunity for people to think about, when you think about how can you customize the service so that your business has niches of one? Like you're targeting niches of one, like if someone's marketing to you, Stephen, you're a niche of one. You're not a coach to professionals or blah, 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 blah. You're a niche of one. And when you start thinking about it like that, that's when it becomes kooky and dangerous and weird stuff can be done to get people to be convinced and inspired and act on working with you because you're speaking directly to what's going on for them, like directly, like direct response, like what it was meant to be, Yeah. That's
pretty crazy to even think of. So, I mean, there's so many just use cases for that alone. So how would you, so let's say you were doing that survey for an example, you were getting people to survey themselves and things like that. How would you actually then hyper contextualize the text to actually do that? So would you have to upload all of like, say like you've got a program or a course, would you have to upload like all the transcriptions from that so that the AI understands like what it is you provide in complete detail? And then whenever they fill in the survey, it's like, okay, well, what we do here matches this and what we do here matches this, so I can create a sales letter ahead of that. And is it all automated, or is it more like, you know, they fill in the stuff, it runs through the AI kind of spits it out, and then you still maybe have a human that's kind of looking over it and being like, I don't know.
Okay, so let's keep it really simple. I'll tell you the manual version, and I'll keep it very simple for a manual version. And also, I'll just say this: automation can be done to anything you can do manually. So understanding the manual is important. And if you can conceptualize and understand and realize the manual, then you can automate and you can scale. So just focus on comprehending the manual first. When it comes to AI, this will give you superpowers, because most people are like lost in tools. Fuck the tools. Like screw screw them, you know? So very simply, you grab all of the survey responses, you grab your existing sales letter, and you use some sort of a rewrite prompt, and you say, hey, rewrite this sales letter speaking directly to this person and speak directly to all the issues they outlined in the survey, and hit on their fears, frustrations, aspirations, and wants. Maybe, you know, rewrite this to speak directly to those. Simple. Like, open ChatGPT and do that. You don't need to automate that to get results, right? Like, think about these things in what you can do now to get a win, to play, to learn. You know, like, you know, that's the way you want to think about it. Because I think what happens, one of the major things I've seen already when it comes to AI, automation, scaling, process engineering, whatever the things are you're trying to do to hack your way through hyper growth in your company, is you overcomplicate the crap out of it. Just get a thing, get another thing, and say, hey, let's do that. You know, like, what can we do in the next 20 minutes to get an outcome versus the next 20 months of fucking around? But beyond that, you don't need a survey result either. Like even simpler than that, right? So let's say you don't have a survey with 30,000 people. You only have what is readily available on the internet of 7 or 8 billion people. there's already, like, for example, I could go onto your Facebook feed. I could copy and paste everything on there, copy and paste everything on your LinkedIn, copy and paste everything on all your socials, take some screenshots, chuck it into the AI and say, hey, tell me what Steven's really interested in right now. What's important to Steven in his life right now? Like, and there you go. I've got some answers. Like, I don't even need to do the survey. Like, you can pop it out without that. So hyper contextualization is the lesson here, though. Context things so obscenely narrow to one person, one problem at a time. Stop trying to do everything with it all at once, and try and do one thing for one person, one bespoke thing at a time. That's where you get outstanding results. I have this other cool story. So I helped a lady who's got this consulting business, and she very much works with corporate and government type customers. So she has to pitch for her work all the time through this like complex request for quote tendering type process. Yeah. And it takes her, like, each time she does one of these things, it takes her 25 hours. And no joke, 25 hours, because she's writing like this, 20-page report. She's putting together a project plan, a budget, and a Gantt chart, and all these things. And so I sat down with her, and we hacked it out. So the way I hack things out is I always look at a complex task like that takes 25 hours. I just look at it as a glorified to-do list. It is just a set of dominoes that is a to-do list. Like one domino hits the next. And most people do these things unconsciously right now. Like they do that 25-hour task. They just sit down and they smash it out. They turn on their tunes. They drink their coffee. They do whatever. And that's cool. But if you understand the sequence of events that you're going through, then you can get a robot to do it. And a robot can do it perfectly. And the robot does it perfectly every time. And if your robots aren't doing it perfectly, it means you don't understand what you're doing, and you're not articulating it to the robot correctly. And so that's on you, not on the tech, right? Yeah. And so that's an important distinction. Anyway, we took this 25-hour process, dude. No joke. Got it down to 11 minutes. Better output than she could do herself. Took us 2.5 hours to build this thing. Took us 2.5 hours to build this thing. So for one pitch, she's built this thing, this bespoke, it's a bespoke set of prompts and a bespoke process specifically to her business. Dude, now she can pitch 50, 60 times the amount of work. Like, it's incredible.
Fucking crazy. Yeah,
it's
and that's like, I mean, and what's somebody willing to pay for that, which is like the next thing. It's like, you've saved me 25 hours on every client. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's almost incalculable, like how much that's actually worth to someone. So yeah, I can see why you've pivoted into AI. It's making sense now.
I found a few edges. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it all comes back around to crypto anyway. These AIs are going to make so much crypto money it's not funny. So understanding both the lay of the land is important.
On that, you've mentioned there the connection between crypto and AI and how that's going to go someday. Whenever that does take place, and like there's maybe like, like you said, like if there's 100 times the amount of AIs that there is people, and they're making, transactions, like, God, like how many transactions is that actually going to be in any given second? What's going to actually, obviously you don't have a crystal ball, but like in your mind, like what happens to crypto at that point? Because, surely that, it can't be like a case of where like, oh my God, there's like 100 million Bitcoins being sold and bought every single minute. So the graph's just going to go like, whoop, 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 like, or is there going to get to a stage where there's a different currency, almost like a globally recognized currency, like more like a stable coin, like a USDC or something like that, or even like a new coin that doesn't even exist yet, where it's like this is what we do transactions on. It's kind of like pound versus dollar. It's maybe going to go up and down a little bit, but it's not going to be like this like mayhem, because that almost sounds to me like it could be mayhem. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like if you've got these AI, and AIs could obviously potentially, we don't like. There is obviously the irrational fear of like an AI Skynet type thing, where it's like, I now control all of crypto. I'm going to fucking tank this. I'm going to spike it. I'm going to do whatever. Or you have somebody malevolent that's in trying to do that type of thing. So like what way do you actually see all that going? Because like at some point does Bitcoin as well on that like come down to a normal level where it just sits at like maybe worth 10 grand and it never moves from that again? Like right now, are we in the highs of Bitcoin? Yeah, I'm just keen to hear your thoughts on what you think will actually happen whenever that time comes.
So I think humans and organizations and finances and crypto and AI and even robotics, I think all of it's very, very, very inefficient right now. Like the meal you eat next, on average, most of the elements on that plate will travel like 4,800 kilometers, like thousands of miles to get to your plate. And we will send, one product from America to Vietnam to get put in a plastic package and then sent back to America.
I was gonna say that there's something goes inside
like
America,
literally
back to America. Yeah.
And so systems are very, very, very inefficient right now. You think about like some of the corporate jobs that exist. There's literally just people there. Their whole role is to like rubber stamp something and like check a whole bunch of things. Systems and AI are going to replace some of these jobs very quickly. And what I think is going to happen is I think we're going to go into almost a psychedelic time. It's really hard to say it any other way, because I think what will happen is hyper efficiency, and it'll happen because we have systems that we can design to coordinate more effectively than us humans can. And coordination is key to the future. And coordination is actually the end of scarcity, if you think about it. So the reason I say this is like scarcity is kind of like this. I kind of think of it, and this is a really weird answer to your question, but I think scarcity is a myth. I think that we've been sort of sold this by economists and marketers that scarcity is real, that resources are finite, and that, like that's a very true truth. But also in the same universe where, yes, we only have, X many liters of oil left on planet Earth right now, and it is regenerating at a very slow pace, and it won't regenerate as fast as we're using it right now. But in the same token where that's true, there's this many liters. We live in a universe that's still freaking expanding. Like there's still planets being made, still stars exploding at the edge of the galaxy. So whilst it seems very finite when you put a microscope on this one thing, when you blow out the frame, it's not. It's actually an exponential world that it's an infinite universe we live in right now, and people can't wrap their minds around that. it makes you feel in control when you think scarcity is real. It is like this. It is this weird mechanism. Anyway, the reason I'm saying this is because the world we're going into, coordination will make scarcity a thing of the past. And so when it comes to how much money you earn, I don't know where that goes, dude. I don't know where that goes. I think things are going to become cheaper. Like I imagine that. I was a kid when Jetsons was on TV. I don't know if it was on TV when you were a kid.
Yeah. I remember Jetsons. Yeah,
you remember it. And you had your robot, your 10 robots that lived in your house with you and did all the things, and you had your flying cars and all that stuff. And I got to the year 2000 and I was pissed off if we didn't have it already. But I think we're genuinely going into that. It's going to take another 10, 20, 30 years to fully get there. But we're going to get into this. World where everything's going to be so damn efficient that costs are going to become almost zero on a lot of things. Like almost zero on a lot of things. Like you think about labor right now, AI, robotics, right? Labor is, paying someone $1 squillion an hour, if they're anything but an expert and really helping progress come about, doesn't make sense. We can get people to scan their own groceries. Like, we don't need to pay someone to do that. Like, we can get someone to do X. We don't need to pay someone to do that. Like,
at the Whole Foods beside me, they've got the Amazon checkout and stuff like that. Like, I scan my hand and it pays for it. Like, I don't even make it. Like, I'm like, that's fucking crazy. I was like, the first time I set it up, I was like, how do I set this up? And Amazon's like, put your hand in front of the camera. We're going to scan all the wrinkles on it. And I'm like, what? And then I go down to Whole Foods. I'm like, beep, beep. And it worked. I took it out of my fucking credit card and I'm like, that's fucking insane. So... But and then there's the Amazon stores as well, where you don't even need to scan it. You put it in your basket and it scans as it goes in the basket, and then you just walk out with it and it knows you have an Amazon account. So yeah, that's interesting. Do you think you said about things
everyone's
getting cheaper?
Feeling really comfortable after this conversation in the audience, I'm sure. Everyone's like, oh sweet man, it's all gonna be good. What do I do?
Well that's what I'm gonna ask next. Do you think that those savings will actually be passed on to the consumer, or do you think, which I would probably more go down this line of thinking, that there'll just be more profit for shareholders because they're like, why would we make our service cheaper if people are already happy paying it?
I think both so I think both will happen. I mean, there'll be more freemium services, there's no reason why food won't end up free in a world where, energy comes out of the sun for free and it powers robots who make it that cost fractions of a cent, and they put food on your plate for free. This is like 20 years, 30 years from now, right? Like there's no reason why that wouldn't happen. And then you get it for free because, you accept the pop-up ad that comes out before before your burger. Like whatever the thing is, like
I would watch a 3-minute ad for free food. Yeah, I would do that. Yeah. It's like, yes, I will watch or skip and pay £3. It's like, I'll watch it. I'm not hungry yet.
Yeah. I'm going to splurge today. I'm going to skip the ad.
Yeah, like last night, we've got this streaming service in the States called Peacock, and it's not that great. Like, it's not anywhere near Netflix or anything like that. It's got some old shows on it. It's got actually, one thing it does have is like all the WWE stuff. It's got some sports games on, but it's like $4.99 a month. It's so cheap with ads, and I'm like, I'm not paying like 3 times that to not have the ads, because I open it like once every 2 weeks. And like last night I was like, oh, I'm gonna stick a movie on, and it was like, you must watch 3 minutes of commercials, and I'm like, all right, I'll just go fucking make dinner and then I'll come back and it'll be ready to watch, you know what I mean? So I was like, that's already happening, you know what I mean? You've already accepted that you will do that to pay less and watch a movie. So yeah. But yeah, that's the longest streaming ad I've ever seen pop up. It's like, this is gonna be on for 180 seconds. I'm like, 180 seconds? That's fucking 3 minutes. I was like, right, I'm not sitting watching this shit. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting concept.
I think what we will see in 3 years, like inside 3 years, I think you'll see a hyper contextualized ad. I think you'll see a platform open up and it'll like knock on the screen and go, yo, Steven, I see you eating that fucking bean. put it down. It's putting too much estrogen in your body. Like it'll like, and then it'll tell you some like testosterone thing.
TRT,
Anyway,
yeah.
but it'll be like, yo, stop that, Steven. Put that bean down.
I could probably do that. That would be actually, I would pay for that. I would pay to have a PT in my TV being like, yo, those Twizzlers?
Yeah.
No, nah, man. Put them down. Yeah.
Have a hologram in the fridge beside the
beside
the
all
food.
the good stuff. Yeah. When you just go to reach for it, it's like, yo, what you doing, motherfucker? You're like, that's like David Goggins or someone. You're like, oh, fuck, okay.
You open your Nutella and a PT genie comes out and like punches you in the face.
Yeah. I mean, people would pay for that shit. There you go, man. That's your next business idea. Yeah, how do you make that happen? Yep. Oh, that's great. So cool. Like, I mean, yeah, some fucking interesting, but also sometimes maybe scary shit. So, but yeah, going back to, obviously, you know, you've been in the cave for a while. You've been working on a lot of the cool AI stuff. So I know we talked about a couple of case studies there, but I don't know if we really dived into like just the specifics of like what's coming next for you and like what is it that you've really been working on. And you know, I think we talked before about like some prompts and stuff that you felt like you could like 50x your output. So yeah, I'd love to dive into a wee bit of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I touched on it with one of those case studies, the 25 hours into 11 minutes. I mean, that is really the antithesis of 50xing your output, right? Yeah. And so what that takes, just to like really break this down for people, is it's really interesting when you see a lot of people go about doing their day, doing their job, and they do things they do really well, right? You know, they do a process where they jump on the phone, they talk to a customer, they do this. And sales is different because a lot of your guys understand sales and they understand the value of a script and a process, and like they understand that, right?
Yeah.
But what they're doing is they're following they're following a vanilla process until they have the capacity and skill to do it themselves. And then they get shine. Like then they get polished to the point of where they can go off script and they can do really good in ways because they've learned the lessons. They've got the muscle memory. They know how far they can push themselves, stretch themselves, push the customer, all these things, and get great outcomes. And in that, people go, oh, I don't know how I did it. It was just intuition that I knew to say this one thing that was off script at this time. Yeah. And a really good buddy of mine, who you know as well, Josh McKitterick, he told me this one thing. He told me one thing one time. He said to me, I said to him, I'm like, oh, you know, he's like, how did you do that? And I'm like, oh, it was just intuition. And he's like, no, that's bullshit. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, you know, like I'm not a full-blown hippie, but I believe intuition's a thing, you know? And he's like, no, intuition is a series of compressed insights that you had. Compressed information, compressed genius from all of the direct experience you've had over a long period of time. Intuition is when your brain just does a whole bunch of unconscious processing really, really fast. And then you go, I should do this. And you don't think about the stack of thoughts that you went through to get to the I should do this. Because if you did, you'd be going through thoughts so fast you'd probably get like some G-force like feeling if you went through those.
have a bit of a stroke. Yeah.
Have a stroke. Don't have a stroke. Anyway, why I share this is when the secret to making sequences and to-dos that are just killer, just that can turn something that's a 25-hour task into an 11-minute task. The secret is anything that you think is intuition or anything you do just because you think it's your secret sauce, spending the time to unpack that sequence and going, stop, what did I do there? What did I do? Like, hold on, how did I think about that? Why do I believe that? What is fundamental to that? Like, how do I, like, if I was to turn that intuition into a recipe, what's the ingredients? Which order do they go into? Which one does and doesn't belong? Like, it's very much slowing down what you think is your magic and bottling it into a prompt, right? Or into a process or into an automation or into a thing, right? But the critical step here is believing that you have information you can unpack from yourself.
Yeah.
Like knowing that you do something a particular way, right? And it just is, it's so instructional design, which is what Josh is, who pulled me up on this and taught me a bunch. Instructional designers think, they just write all the dummies books out there, like the, Windows for dummies, the if for dummies, the this for dummies. And it's just like, do this now, do this now, do this. That's not instructional design. That's instructional regurgitation. Like that's not really instructional design. Instructional designers that are world-class are like Josh, and they're like, hold on, what did you do there? Stop, like pause, freeze frame, zoom in, like go right into that moment in time. Like what happened before, what happened during, what happened after, and really extrapolate it out, pull the magic, pull the essence out. And so what I've been doing is like for the last 6 weeks, I've basically been pulling IP out of my own head, but I've been trying to write this book called Modern Day Alchemy. And I haven't written enough of the damn book yet, nowhere near as much as I'd like to. But the essence of Modern Day Alchemy is how do we, when we're in business, when we hit an obstacle, like I don't have enough leads or enough sales or this or that, how do we use that as the moment in time to go and unpack some magic and turn it into an asset in the business so that it can produce cash flow to replace it? Using AI, using all the tools, using, instructional design philosophies from people like Josh. How do we unpack that genius and put that genius to work in a repeatable system where it can become hyper productivity, hyper growth, like hyper momentum for us in our business? Like, how do we do that? So that's what I've been in the layer trying to do. And I just have one of these like seriously curious brains where I can sit with someone, and like I did with this lady, we turned that process from 25 hours to 11 minutes. I sat down and I was just like, hold on, stop, like, and it was like it's a really frustrating call to do for both of us in a good way, like good frustration. It's like, because we have to like pause in moments where she's in the middle of a thought and go, no, hold on. What led to that thought? Like, how did you think about that?
Yeah.
So it is hard work. It is, the effort that you apply is in the, how is the thinking done? How is the magic created? And then the effortlessness comes out of, you bottling that magic and turning it into a prompt sequence or an automation or a series. Like that's kind of really what's happening and unfolding under the hood.
There's been, I've got like some ideas like bubbling in my head about like, how do you scale a sales business using AI? And I know that there's some AI softwares out there now that you can train against, like you can do your sales pitch against it and it scores you and things like that. In fact, I have a friend, Luke, out in Australia as well, met in Fiji this year, and he's working on one, really hyper cool. And I'm looking forward to playing with it. And I know I've been like pitched these before, but I've never found them to be picked particularly good, where it's like an AI salesperson. So they've obviously trained them on the script and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I've always felt like when I'm talking to it, it's like, I know I'm talking to an AI, which kind of like loses the experience a little bit for me. Whereas now I'm thinking like, how far away are we from, there being able to create an AI that sounds so realistic, is so well trained on, like, could I upload every single sales training I've ever done, created, plus ones that I've bought into this AI system, so it knows every possible objection handle, it knows what to say, when to say. And also, because my sales team, I record every single sales call that they do for, like, we must have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of sales calls. People that have said no, people that have said yes, people that have said they got to think about it. How was every single one of those scenarios helped or, worked? And then could you upload all that into an AI model? And then you now have an unlimited amount of salespeople, where you could have like this AI where you split it into like as many hundred or thousands of salespeople as you need, cold calling people every day, setting appointments every day. And then they're booked in with an AI and they come onto the Zoom call. There's an AI there. It looks like a real person. It's talking back to you. There's no lag. They're not like, because that's the issue I've had with any of those that I've looked at before. It's been like, here's my pain point. And then it's like buffering for 3 seconds. This is my answer to you. You know what I mean? It's like, and that sucks because like, yeah, it might sell to some people. Some people might just be like process driven, where they're like, I don't care. I'm talking to an AI. I just want to get to the end result, which is to buy this product or not buy this product. But like, how far away are we from a model where it's realistic and you're like, oh, I don't even think I'm talking to an AI. I actually think I'm talking to a real person. Now that might be a bit scary to think of, but like, you know, with you being in AI, do you feel like that's something that's nearby or something that even somebody's maybe already working on that you've heard about?
It all comes down to like, it all comes down to context, like really does. I'm not saying that as some sort of like dance around the answer, but it comes down to context. Like if I ring an AI, an inbound, like an AI, phone person, and I ring a restaurant and I say, hey, I need a booking at 8. It's got some clunking plates in the background. And the lady goes, oh yeah, I can get you in at 8:15. How many for the table? What's your phone number? I don't care whether I spoke to an AI or not, first of all.
Yeah.
Right. That's actually the first thing. So that, as far as context goes, is a high use case for AI to be there. Like there's no point to have a human there, especially if someone doesn't care. The second thing is like, I expect if I ring a restaurant for a waitress to kind of like have the phone under her chin and be running around and there's noises and I expect it to be a shoddy call. I half expect someone not even to say hello these days with how shit some people are at answering the phone.
What do you want?
Let's not talk about the next generation where they just go, That's like how they pick up the phone. But the reason I say this is I think context is going to matter. I always think this, right? Like it's a first principle for me, right? And so the context that's going to do really well in the short time ahead is going to be inbound AIs, not outbound. And so what I mean by this is someone calls an AI, expecting an AI, but expecting a high value outcome, right?
Yeah.
So what do I mean by this? So if you thought of AI callers as like lead magnets, instead of having a lead magnet where, you download my 24-page report that, tells you 3 things with a lot of sales copy around it and wastes a lot of your time reading. Like if you download that now, you can have that. Instead, what if you said to someone like, hey, let us help you craft the perfect opener for you. For when you jump on the phone, for when you're cold calling, let us help you craft the perfect opener. Now, yes, it's an AI that we put you through, but we uploaded hundreds of hours of cold calls into this bot. We gave it the script. We gave it where scripts fall apart. And all you got to do right now to get your perfect opener for a cold call is call this number and just answer the questions the AI has on the other end of the phone. Yeah. Now, what I've done is I've contextualized it really well because I've said we've put in hundreds of hours. I've said here's a really cool piece of value. We're going to give you an opener for your cold calls, like a specific one contextually to your thing. Now all of a sudden, people want to call the thing. Yeah, like no one wants to talk to an AI. No one wants to talk to a human unless there's a reasonably good value exchange. Like people want to get something out of doing that typically. Yeah. Yeah. So focus on the value, focus on the context. Screw the process and is the lag time and the video working and all these things. Like screw that. Just use janky tech. Use the trashiest thing available, but have the best context and the best value and you win. Like you don't need you don't need the perfect tech. You need to think about what's that moment you're trying to create, and you're in the design of a moment. Yeah. And like people have had moments where they cry at fake actors on a screen who've had a fake divorce, and their fake dog died and people are bawling on the couch, like watching this thing. We don't question whether we will do that in the future. We'll do that in the future. We'll have a tear of joy when an AI gives us relief from some cold script we haven't been able to refine for 20 years, and we'll be grateful to this fake thing that happened that created a real moment for us. If a fake thing creates a real moment, that's cool. But you're looking for that, like design the moment. Like that's where we're at. Like that's the depth of it,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, man, that's good insight on it. Yeah, I just, I'm just thinking like, you know, if you could get it to that like really sort of sexy point where like nobody can tell it's an AI, it's like you could just like everybody could just scale their sales business like overnight. You could just be like, right, okay, I have a lead list of 30,000 leads, and it's like phoned it by tomorrow because like it's just like. Whereas you've got to have like the manpower of like several sales staff. It's going to take them weeks to get through all these leads. People aren't going to pick up, so they're going to, yeah, I'm not ringing him again. He hasn't picked up 3 times in a row. Whereas an AI, I'll be like, I'll call that motherfucker 10,000 times. I don't care. Yeah, I'm going to wait till he picks up, you know? So yeah, and even just for inbound appointments, it's like it's setting its own appointments and stuff like that. So I think there's like I think that's the way that goes long term. Like, is like that the death of the salesman? You know what I mean? So is that like the true death of the salesman? Is AI taking over? Could be.
I think the long game here is in context, right? So imagine this. Imagine you're trying to set appointments and you're setting appointments with people who've got a Facebook profile, right? And they've had one for 15 years.
Yeah.
All like if you're trying to set an appointment with that person and you're just cold calling them, you can do it, you know, you can do it. But like with AI, you can have something that's like a tip of the spear that goes before the cold call. You could have a little video that goes to them and goes, "Hey, Stephen, this is a photo of you 10 years ago, a photo of you 9 years ago, a photo of you 8 years ago, a photo of you 7 years ago. Have you noticed your hair's receding? Have you noticed this is happening? Have you noticed this is happening?" Like, dude, I've got some answers to these problems. I'm going to give you a call at Tuesday in the morning. Pick up, dude. I'm going to like, I've got a couple of answers for you. You'd be keen to hear these, you know, like, you said,
I'd be like, my hair's receding.
Yeah, dude, we measured it. It's like 0.5 of a centimeter. And you should see how it speeds up and hockey sticks over the next 10 years. Look, here's an AI generated photo of you at 50.
Oh man, funny you say that. There was me and a friend of mine. He was like a coder, and he was doing a bit of stuff playing around with AI. And I was like, you know what would be cool for sales calls? Although this went down very badly when I asked my clients about it, and some of the guys were like, that sounds fucking cool. A lot of the women were like, that's not cool at all. And but basically it was an AI software that you could, before you went to the sales call, you would get like, you know, their recent photo of them looking overweight, and you would drag it in, and it'd be like, make them thin. And then on the sales pitch, it's like, this is what you could look like in 12 weeks. And, you know, go bing, and they'd be like, you know, and like some of the guys that I I just sent to all my clients, it goes, I was like, he said he could build it out. Now, in the prototype phase, it was doing all sorts of shit. It was making them fatter. It was making them fucking, you know, anorexic. It was doing all that. We didn't quite get it right. But I was like, before you put any time or effort into this, let me just ask my own clients if they would use it. And some of the guys were like, yeah, that sounds like a fucking great idea. That's going to really hit some pain points. And then like all the women were like, no, that's very manipulative. That's this. So I was like, okay, maybe we shelve that idea for now. But
and let's speak to that for a moment, because that's what a lot of people are probably sitting like, maybe not the majority of your listeners, but some of them will be like, dude, this is super manipulative. You're like, you know, Minority Report, tracking Steven's move, measuring his hair follicles. This is a little bit like scary. Measuring his hair follicles. That's the future.
And like clearly based on your photos, you have been getting significantly less pussy every single year as your hair is growing like this. So really, you know.
So speaking to this for a moment, it's actually really interesting, because the actual conversation in the broader AI community is that humanity is going into this crisis of meaning. They're going to be like, what do we do without our job that we hated? Like, they're going to be like, what are we going to do without these tasks that we defined ourselves by, that we complained about all the time? And then my point to this is like, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to direct response marketing, when it comes to meaning making out of this stuff, any meaning making out of this stuff, then we have to, like, I actually think what actually we go through right now is not, I don't have a doomer lens. I have a, you know, this is a kitschy way of saying it, but I have a bloomer lens. I think we're going into a springtime, a renaissance of humanity, of all of our creativity, of all the things that are possible. And I think what will happen is people are going to have 1,000 more ads come, like 1,000 times the ads they have coming at them now, they'll have coming at them in the future. But they'll also have AI bots that defend them against the ad feed as well. Like everything, there'll be counterbalances to all these things. And what I have to say is for the person who's worried that they're going to lose their job to an AI, or the person who thinks this is manipulative, the thing is that in the short time, it might seem very adversarial, very aggressive. Like, like job loss is real to someone. If an AI comes and takes your job, that's real. Like, you've got bills to pay, and
that sucks.
Thinking about the future doesn't pay them. Like, I get it, right? But the truth is if you're in a job that an AI can do, you weren't really in a job of meaning. Like, that AI didn't come along and oppress you. It came along and freed you. It cut your bloody handcuffs. And it said, here you go, buddy. Go be a better you. Like, and I know this is a very optimistic viewpoint, but that's the reality I see when it comes to thinking about this stuff. You have to take a pragmatic, optimistic view, because the doomer view is no use to you. It's no use to you. It just puts you in a viewpoint of being weighed down by what's coming, and that's not useful. The useful thing is to ask yourself over and over again, how might we use this to our advantage as a species? How might we use this as an advantage to my own business right now? How might I use this as an advantage to help people, to give back, to give the impact that we want to do with all of those things? So yeah, you can use it in manipulative ways, or you can make people's jobs obsolete and all this kind of stuff right now. But the truth is if you're kind of focused on walking a path that's bringing about, an experience for people, you care about people. Like if you're a fitness professional, you care about people's health, like you actually care about that. Like, use all of these powers and tools for that. And, the majority of people will. Sure, there'll be some bad actors. There will always be bad actors in the world, but there's a majority of good actors, and there'll always be a majority of good actors in the world. So, like, being a doomer just doesn't help you, like it's just not useful.
Doesn't serve anyone. Yeah, it's just wasted brain energy.
Go watch a horror film or something. Go do something that's like more useful than thinking about the end of the world, because everyone has thought about the end of the world since the beginning of time. And
it still hasn't happened yet.
The second there was the first leader of a tribe of the caveman, they were like, oh no, he's going to kill us all. We're all going to die. And that voice has never stopped since the beginning of time. Like, that'll still be there. If you want to come back to being a doomer, you can come back to being a doomer. But just try on being a pragmatic optimist for a long period of time and see what happens to your life. Like, just try it out.
Sounds like a better way of living anyway, than being all doom and gloom. So, cool. So, for anybody listening to maybe take away maybe something practical that they could potentially implement, have you got any, I know you say don't get caught up in the tools, but is there any like particular AI tools, or just even like prompts that somebody listening could like jot down on a piece of paper and actually like go and play with it, and just something like practical that somebody could potentially implement?
Yeah. Let me give you a handful of things. I'll fire them off quickly. So, first things first, you already have wins lying around. You have wins just laying dormant. And that's in pieces of IP that you have that have worked before time and time again. So you have a sales letter that rings a cash register. You have a discovery call script that works. It produces money. What's cool about those assets is inside of them, if you analyze them with AI, you find out and you can unpack more of your genius that you have right now. So if you have a sales letter that's been just like crushing it, grab the things that you have that are winners already, chuck them into the AI, and start doing analysis on them. And get it to act as a bunch of different people to do analysis. Act as a sales copywriter. Tell me why this sales copy works. Act as a behavioral scientist. Tell me why this sales letter copy works. Act as a author who's really good at crafting phrases and words. Tell me why this sales copy works. And then all those outputs it gives you, those traits, those bullets saying it's good because of X and Y and Z and X and Y and Z. That's some of the magic that you already have inherently in the stuff that you have that wins for you. Start thinking about how now to take those bullets and replicate them across other assets you have. Take that winning magic you have and apply it and multiply it, right? Like take the essence of winning and just copy and paste it, because that's the age we live in, right? Take your winners and copy the essence of them. And by essence, I mean like what you're doing in essence is, if I've got a sales letter that's converting really well, imagine it like a lemon that I'm juicing, and I need to juice the whole thing and get every bit of juice out of it, right? So actors, all these different actors, to get as many distinctions as you possibly can. And what I like to do, this is very, very archaic for an age of AI, but one of the things I like to do is I get all of these distinctions and I get it in a Google Doc, and I put them all together, and then I chuck that document back into the AI and I say, hey, this is a list of all the distinctions or insights I've had about my business. I want you to do a taxonomy on these things and rate and rank everything to tell me what is probably doing most of the heavy lifting here. Like, which of these things is actually doing the heavy lifting? And then I like to test that premise out. So apply those things that I've learnt about my winning pieces of IP and try and get future pieces of IP written that tick those boxes and see what happens, right? So it's very much squeezing the essence out of what you have and then distilling that. And then you got to think of yourself like an alchemist, hence my modern day alchemist book. You got to think about it like you've got an apothecary and you're squeezing out the essence of how you do sales. You're squeezing out the essence of how you do marketing. You're squeezing out the essence of how you bring value. And you're bottling all those things and you're bottling all your own prompts. And the reason I say you're bottling all your own prompts is because that's your IP. That's your assets in the next 10, 20 years. Copy and pasting someone else's prompt is kind of leaving you weak. Like, honestly, like it's like, and you already have the essence inside of the magic that you've built. So that said, that's one thing. Another thing, I'd get the AI to give you things, but also get it to receive things. Okay. So here's what I mean. So get it to give you a sales letter to send to, fat 50-year-olds who, have always been fat and have never got not fat. And like, tell it to give me a sales letter to that. Now, get that sales letter, open a new chat window and say, act as a 50-year-old fat person who's never lost the weight and always been a fatty. Tell me their objections to this sales letter. And get it to receive it as the fatty and go, oh, this thin PT doesn't understand me. He thinks I need to lift weights before I lose some of this fat with like a diet or something. Like, I just need to change my diet, or like whatever the objections are, right? Like, it spits out the objections, but I've got it to act as a sales copywriter. Everyone's thinking about that, but no one's thinking about acting as the customer. Receive it, give the feedback, like get the objections, get the real objections, and get it to give you tangibles, right? Like, give me the top 20 objections these people have, but tell me how they'd say it. Tell me what are the words that would fall out of their mouth, Yeah. And the more you contextualize it, right? Like, if I say a 50-year-old fatty who's never lost all the weight and is still fat will always be fat unless they do something about it. If I say that broadly, that's a worldview, right?
Yeah.
If I say they live in Hackney, if I say they live in Hackney, the objections that person's going to have are going to be very different, the words of it, right? And if I was a PT, I'd be doing local area marketing. So I'd be thinking about like how a 50-year-old fatty is in Hackney saying this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd be looking for that magic inside of it, like I'd be searching for that. So there's a couple of ways I think about it, but I do just want to reiterate this, which I said before, which is you guys already have some genius. It's about circling the genius that you have and starting to unpack it, like starting to figure out, how do I use my genius? Because the AI is just a tool. And if you try to figure out how the tool can do everything for you, then you're not thinking about the best resource you have, which is the person swinging the tool. It's the person behind the hammer, that's the best resource you have. So I think about it like that a lot. And I think people are going to build themselves an asset base of prompts and processes and things that they use that are their secret magic. And they shouldn't share the prompts with everyone. Like, I think it's kind of trite, to be honest. Like, your AI should talk like you, Stephen, and like sharing that prompt with any of your audience, I think is a bad idea. Like, help them figure out how to have their voice, that kind of thing. That's where I stand on it. Anyway, there'll be a lot of AI gatekeepers in the future, like we were talking about before. We were talking about before,
people are already selling prompts and creating prompt lead magnets and shit like that, so it's already here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, gatekeeper on the other side too. Like, you'll have a PA that just reads your email and goes, no. AI that would send you'll have your own gatekeeper. And I think I think it's only going to let through things that are literally on track with your goals, because that's how you'll set it up.
Yeah.
So unless something is speaking directly to your context, your AI gatekeeper is not going to let it through. So context. That's like the super important part of this. You know, it's just so incredibly important.
Everything's context. I mean, that's that's been a fucking cool insight, man. So look, let's start to land the plane. So before we go any further, anything else that you feel like you haven't covered off that you want to touch on?
I think when you're unpacking your genius for the first time, it is hard to kind of stop your own thinking and do it on your own. Like, get a group of people around you that are going to help you figure out some of the magic that you do is a good idea. Like, I do think that's genuinely a good idea. You need a culture of that. It is a sequence. It is a sequence of events that happens, but it has to be contextualized to your circumstances. So, you know, if I was a PT who's doing cold calls, you know, I'd be in a pod and we'd all be like listening to each other's recordings. You know, we'd spend time doing that, and then we'd be hacking out how we'd handle different objections by throwing it into the AI and going, you know, what's the objections 50-year-old fatty's going to have to this one? Like what, like, and playing and jamming and jamming, like, you know, a band in a garage, like do weird shit and just go like, oh, let's try this, you know, and that's where creativity, like, get into your creativity is kind of what I'm bashing my fist on the table about right now. Like, that's the big opportunity is like, you get to be creative now, like really creative. Like, and so sharpening your creativity is going to be really, really useful. Really, really useful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, that's cool. I think that's probably a good point to start wrapping things up on. So before we do, I just want to thank you for coming on today, man. And is there anything that you want to shout out, where people can follow you, what you're working on? If you want people to check anything out, just let us know.
I pretty much have all my links in one place. It's rossco.co. So it's rossco.co.
Perfect.
And check that website out if you want to see where I am on the web, because there's fake Rosscos out there, as Stephen touched on earlier.
Yeah.
So
there's
so
many
source
fake
of truth.
Rosscos. Yeah, so many fake Rosscos out there. It was like every week you were like it's like, I'm not this fake Rossco. I'm not this fake Rossco. I remember being like, why don't you buy a verified badge? You're like, I'm not fucking paying Meta $9.99 a month.
Dude, do you imagine how many verified badges is going to be for sale in the future? There'll be like 12,000. I just like, screw that. And I actually like a high pass bar to entry to people to get to the real you. Like, I like it in the sense of like, they had to go and actually seek you out and look at what you were thinking about and communicate with you, rather than just like knocking on your door and saying, you know, have you found my religion yet? You know, like have you found my religion yet? That's not a way to say hello.
Anybody trying to cool pitch you just gets like a scammer, and then they lose all their money, lose their house, and you're like, it's not my problem. He didn't try hard enough to find me. Fuck him.
If I coordinated with the scammers, I'd probably send them leads like that, but no, I don't.
Yeah, funny you were saying about just while we wrap things up about Meta and like fuck Meta. Like, I was listening to Joe Rogan and Tom Segura's episode from like a couple of weeks back. I don't know if you heard it, but he was like, Tom Segura met a guy that worked for Meta. He came to one of his shows, and he asked him like outright. He was like, you know, I was like talking about Lamborghinis earlier, and then like 2 hours later, like all my shit, I'm getting out Lamborghini ads. Like, people are asking me to book test drive. I even got an email about it. And he goes, but I didn't type in Lamborghini anywhere. And like the Meta guy turned around and goes, yeah, we listen. Everybody knows that. I'm just like, just flat out, it was like, we are fucking listening to your phone. And like, he didn't dive any deeper than that. Wasn't like, are you listening whenever the app's closed? Are you listening whenever the app's on? Like, he didn't dive into all that, but he's like, the Meta guy was like, oh yeah, we're listening. I was like, what? So yeah, I'm probably after this episode going to be like later tonight. It's like, you should download ChatGPT. I'm like, oh, fuck, what?
Yeah, like They'll probably be reading our thoughts at some point, and I don't care. Like, just there's no, I don't have any time for dooming. Like, dooming is boring.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'd rather get the ads that I'm interested in than not. Like, you know, that, like, whenever they did the whole iOS thing, it's being like, you can opt out of having yourself being tracked and stuff like that. I was like, but I'd rather get ads for shit that I actually might want to buy, as opposed to getting ads for, like, do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm getting ads for cat food when I've got a dog. Pointless. Give me fucking ads for dog food because I got a dog. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather, like, you knew what I wanted and then you advertised to me as such, rather than, like, being like, hey, why don't you buy this fucking $30 million plane? It's like, well, I'm broke, so I can't buy that.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, look, thank you so much for coming on today. I've had a blast. I've learned fucking a lot, and I think anybody listening to this is probably gonna have had their, like, head completely blown off. So, and people are gonna be running into the streets. Like, you ever remember the movie Little Nicky? Whenever I think it was Quentin Tarantino plays the blind priest, and he's the end is coming. The end is coming.
Oh man, Doomers are the most hilarious people on the planet. Doomers are like cortisol junkies. They're like doing lines of cortisol. They're just like, oh, the end is coming. It's just like, what are you doing, dude? Stop doing cortisol. It's a shit drug.
Oh, fuck yeah, 100%. Oh man, look, thank you so much. I've appreciated your time massively today, and yeah, like that
was really fun, dude.
One of my favorite episodes ever. It was very fun. So thank you, bro.